no charges for the local sheriffs in Jacksonville, Florida, who punched William McNeil in the face by local prosecutors. Let's talk about it. It says here, I think by now we've all have heard or even seen the video where William McNeil down in Jacksonville, Florida, was stopped by the local sheriff's department in Jacksonville, Florida. And it says here, to be more specific, that McNeil was pulled over by the sheriff's deputy at 4:15 p.m. local time for allegedly not having his headlights on due to inclement weather and not wearing a seat belt, according to the police report. And so we see in the video, obviously, that he was pulled over and the sheriff said, hey, show me your ID. And he asked why was I stopped? And they, words were exchanged. And then they said, if you don't comply, we're going to come in and get you out. We're going to break your window, of which he asked for a supervisor. They broke his window, his driver's side window. And then he, as you see in the video, he was struck in the face, and then he was dragged out of the vehicle. And then he was struck a few more times in the video, as well as arrested. Okay, so as an attorney, the first thing my mind goes to is, why did the law enforcement agency interact with the citizen in the first place? Whenever they're in the scope of their duties, law enforcement can only interact with you if the interaction is consensual, which obviously that didn't happen here, or if they have reasonable suspicion via the famous Terry v. Ohio case called a Terry stop. And a Terry stop is where the officer has to have reasonable suspicion that criminal activity, and they can articulate the facts that criminal activity is either about to occur or has occurred. It cannot be a mere hunch, or it can't be like, oh, I think I've seen. No, it has to be articulable facts. That's what the Supreme Court said in the Terry v. Ohio case. It has to be articulable facts that the officer can state that criminal activity is afoot or is about to occur, which is a lower threshold for probable cause. Probable cause is something different, but reasonable suspicion, and the way most law enforcement officers meet reasonable suspicion when you're dealing with motorists is that, they can say, oh, they violated some traffic code, they ran a red light, or they ran a stop sign, or their license plates is the tags, or whatever. That's any of those things you can articulate that you can cite them for. Now, here it says that he was pulled over for not having his headlights on during inclement weather and not wearing a seatbelt. So, let's go to the local Florida state law regarding when your lighted lamps should be on. It's what they call them, lighted lamps or headlights on the vehicle. If you look at here, here's the actual Florida statute regarding the lighted lamps. It says, as you can see here in the code, when lighted lamps are required, every vehicle operated upon a highway within this state shall display lighted lamps illuminating devices as herein respectively required for different classes of vehicles, subject to exceptions with respect to parked vehicles under the following conditions. And subsection A, at any time from sunset to sunrise, including twilight hours. So clearly, sunset to sunrise, that's dark. And it says also during any rain, smoke, or fog, stoplights, turn signals, or signal device shall be prescribed in such devices. Okay, so now let's go back to William McNeil. What time was it? It says it was 4:15, so it wasn't sunset. It wasn't between sunset and during sunrise, so it wasn't nighttime, clearly, right? So that wasn't there. But the statute says, if there's any rain, smoke, or fog. Well, on the video, I didn't see any smoke, any rain, any fog. You guys tell me if you saw that, but I didn't see it. Maybe it was there, maybe it wasn't, but that's what the officers are saying. That's why they stopped him, because he didn't have his headlights on during inclement weather. And inclement weather will be what the statute is stating right here. And that's what they said. So now this case has, gone a lot of media attention. So I'm not sure. To me, it doesn't appear that the officers had enough for a Terry stop, although they did say he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And if that is in fact true, which it looked like in the video, he took the seatbelt off when they were talking to him. But I think the officers are alleging that he kind of put it on real quick when they pulled him over, like how most people do. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it seems to be that the Terry stop was not met for reasonable suspicion. Therefore, the stop was unlawful. And if the stop was unlawful, everything thereafter will be unlawful. He should not have been detained in the first place. Based on the limited facts that I have, and I don't have all the facts, like, you know, people say what happened here, and I don't know. I just know by what we see. So just going by the video and from the limited scope of facts, it doesn't appear that they have that they met the standard for a Terry stop, but whatever. Nonetheless, though, the local law enforcement, the local prosecutors, it says in Jacksonville, whatever the name of that county is, it says prosecutors will not bring criminal charges against the sheriff's officers who wrestled a black man out of his car during a traffic stop and punched him multiple times. The local sheriff said Monday. Said Jacksonville, Florida sheriff's officer stopped William Anthony McNeil on February 19th, telling him that he didn't have his headlights on and wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Body camera footage released by the sheriff's office shows. So they're not prosecuting. They you know, the local prosecution said, we don't see any crime here. You know, yeah, we see him being wrestled to the ground. And I think that the actual sheriff, the head sheriff that did a press conference says, yes, you know, violence is ugly, but they were within the law according to their local prosecution. Clearly, you know, as you see that it says here that Williams has hired Ben Crump and Harry Daniels, and they said that this incident was a disturbing reminder that even most basic rights like asking why you've been pulled over can be met with violence for Black Americans. So I think you're going to see a lawsuit here. If not already, settlement negotiations are probably underway with this because this is problematic. Clearly, the man was punched several times. And I can tell you, even, you know, in my estimation, because I've had a few of these cases, I can tell you, even when somebody does violate the vehicle code, typically law enforcement can use should only use excessive force or violent force, or even sometimes deadly force if force is being used upon them. It did not appear as such in this video that even if he wasn't, let's just say he wasn't wearing a seatbelt and there was inclement weather, but the fact that he didn't get out of the car and they broke his window, I'm not sure if any force was being used against a police officer. I didn't see that. You tell me, did you guys see that? I don't know, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this, man, because they're not going to be prosecuted criminally, at least not locally. Now, the feds can come in and look at it and do something different, but as of right now, we don't know. Only thing we know is that, hey, you know, he's hired these attorneys to deal with this, as well as they're going to deal with the negotiations of what's going to happen. And you know, we'll see what comes out of this. But I want to know what you think. Do you think the officers should be criminally prosecuted? Or do you think they're well within their rights? As the local sheriff here said in the press conference, he said the violence is ugly, but hey, they didn't violate the law. You know, you tell me what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's your brother, Attorney Jeff.